Today, we're talking with Paul Lizell, who has mastered wholetailing across the USA. Paul has been buying and selling properties in 44 states since 2001. He shares how he finds deals, minimize risk, and reveals his secret to success when entering new markets. Plus, he's dropping a major secret that he has not shared anywhere else. So don't miss out on this episode about wholetailing strategies. Hey, it's Lily, and you are watching the Real Estate Ballers Show. If you enjoy our videos or found value in this channel, please do me a quick favor and hit that subscribe button. It helps us more than you know and allows us to help more people achieve financial freedom. Thank you and enjoy the episode. I'm sorry for this interruption. I've been asked a lot about passive investment, and I understand that there is nothing passive about being a landlord unless you can find a great property management company. So if you own an Airbnb, a vacation rental, or a short-term rental, and you are looking to free up your time, contact our team at Buzz Vacation Rentals at 281-549-8432 or check out our website at www.buzzvacationrentals.com. Thank you, and back to the Real Estate Baller Show. This episode is brought to you by Jet Lending. For over 20 years, Jet Lending has been helping real estate investors succeed. They offer 100% financing so you can be in at $0 at closing. I can always count on Jet Lending to fund my deals. If you're looking to fund your next deal, contact our friend over at jetlending.com. This episode is brought to you by National Real Estate Insurance Group, a national independent insurance agency specifically for real estate investors. I personally use NREIG for my investment properties. They offer a low monthly payment option to help you to lower your cash out of pocket when buying an investment property. If you're looking for insurance coverage for your flips or your rental, reach out to them. You can click on the link in the show descriptions, or you can reach out to Jules at 816-946-8443. Hey, Paul. Welcome from the sunny state of Florida.
Yes, thank you. I appreciate it. And it is a nice sunny day here. Thankfully, we're past these storms.
So for the audience, we have both audience who listen on podcasts and audience who watch us on YouTube and video form. You got this nice Hawaiian floor shirt on. What's that all about?
That's kind of my whole thing. And I've been wearing these since I was a kid in the 1980s, when I think I found one on a discount Kmart shelf of all things, back in the day. And I just like the design of it. It's like a lifestyle thing. It's a nice, relaxed, super comfortable shirt. Even though it's a button-up shirt. It's a collared shirt, so I get away with golfing if I want to also. Mm-hmm. It's just, the virtual real estate lifestyle, which is what I have. I could buy all over the country from anywhere. It doesn't matter where I live, since I'm buying mostly on online auctions. I could use my home office, which I do, to buy the properties and even close on the properties, because I'll have the notary come to my house to have me sign the documents and everything. So with that being said, I can wear this Hawaiian shirt every single day, which is what I do. And it just became like my mantra, virtual real estate lifestyle. And now and then here in Florida, I get to wear them all the time. When I was living up in Pennsylvania for most of my life, I could wear them during the summertime, maybe a little bit in spring, a little bit in the fall, but otherwise, I had to dress a little bit more warmly there.
It does make life a little more colorful, doesn't it?
Sure does. Yeah. No, I love it. I think I own like 42 different shirts. So.
All right. So I think I heard the word discount somewhere in your statement. Is that what got you into this real estate, buying discounted properties?
Yes, absolutely. My first deal was buying a HUD property. And generally, when you buy HUD properties, they're bank foreclosed properties. Mm-hmm. You're generally getting at a discount. Because, somebody's usually damaged them. They're not in great moving condition. For the most part, they aren't. Although sometimes you can find some that are in pretty good shape. So you get a little bit of discount off the value of the property. And back when I first started at the end of 2001, we picked up one off the HUD Home Store for $29,500, put $4,000 into it, and sold it for $69,000 a few months later. So you can get these discounts out there. You can find them bank REOs, or you can go direct to the seller and find them that way as well.
So that was for your first deal, and then you were able to really scale and blow this thing up.
Yeah,
How long did it take you?
Not too long. So I started working, I was working for a bank back at that point in 2001. And in 2004, I went full-time into real estate. And my objective was, and this be good for the audience to know, I just want to save up 18 months worth of bill paying ability so that I can go off on my own. And that if, 6 months or 12 months later, things weren't going as planned, I can go back and get a regular old job again, which I didn't want to do. So I was scaling up.
You wouldn't be able to wear that shirt to work at the bank.
I wouldn't be able to wear this to the office, So no, that gave me that ability to do that. So 2004, I went full time. I was doing a lot of rehabbing up into the financial crisis in 2008. I did a couple wholesale deals there. Basically, I was only wholesaling deals because I had too many rehabs going on at that point, right? And I couldn't handle enough. I didn't have enough bandwidth at that point. So then wholesaled, and then when everything crashed, we're selling these flips for losses, some big losses, because the market shifted so quickly that I decided, you know what, it was really easy doing those wholesale deals. Let me go back to doing wholesaling. So then I went back to doing 90% wholesaling and 10% fix and flipping at that point for like the next 4 or 5 years. And 2009, 10, 11, I started buying virtually all over. So I'm originally from the Philadelphia area up in Pennsylvania. And I was originally buying in that market. Then I bought in New Jersey. I bought in Pittsburgh, which is very Western PA, Virginia, Ohio, and Indiana, the Carolinas. Before you know it, I ended up buying in 44 out of 50 states by like 2018 or so.
So how many deals do you have going on at a time?
Generally, we have for each month, between 4 and 8 deals active going on. We average around 60 to 80 deals per year right now. My high was 134 that I did in 2013, and that was too many deals that were slim margin. I decided to work smarter, not harder. So I decided doing so many deals, let me slim down and just get the good deals, get the ones that have more meat on the bone. So work less and hopefully make more. And turned out that's what happened, right? I started increasing my revenues and doing less work. So now I continuously try to do that. We went from doing a lot of the major rehabs to now we're doing mostly wholetail deals. So we're finding properties that don't need a ton of work, but maybe need $5,000, $10,000, $15,000 worth of work, and then relist them and resell them. So that's much easier, much quicker. And, with supply chains and with contractors being difficult to find, it's made things a bit easier.
So just for the audience, wholesale is something that we don't take title to. We
Correct.
get under contract and we're trying to find a buyer who will take title. Wholesale is when you actually take title, do some minor renovation, clean up, repair, something real minor, and then resell. Is that
That's
the
right.
same? Okay, you have the same definition.
Exact same definition, yeah. And wholetailing is becoming more and more popular, as you know, out there in this business for sure.
Are you wholetailing in other markets as well, or just in your local market?
No, we're wholetailing it all over the country. In each market we're in there, we're wholetailing. If we could do very minimal work, we are doing that. So a lot of these properties they need cleaned up a little bit, maybe test a furnace, the hot water heater, those kind of things, make sure they're operational. Or maybe do some paint work, some carpet, some flooring, and occasionally some appliances if need be. And we do have a bigger scale, full scale rehab in Michigan, but that was an accident. That was a property we bought and we were originally going to wholetail it, but the pipes burst. They froze, they burst, and ended up making a mess all over the house. So we ended up getting an insurance payout, and then we decided to use that insurance money to do a full scale rehab on the property, which we're wrapping up right now.
So, okay. I'm not advertising this, but that sounds like a double payday.
That's a double payday a lot of times with the insurance for sure.
Yeah.
It'll increase for us for sure.
Okay, so wholetailing in your local city where you live is already hard enough, but you also wholesale in multiple cities. What does your process look like? How do you even go about finding people to do things for you?
this is going to be one of the best pieces of information I can give to your audience here today. It's a golden nugget for sure. And it's something I learned over the test of time. When I went out there and found a contractor of my own, more often than not, I would be burned once they found I was an out-of-market person. So what I ended up doing was always finding an agent, a local agent in that market, and not somebody who works for, say, Keller Williams or Century 21. Somebody who works for a really small mom and pop shop who's been there for forever, knows the market really well, usually like the back of their hand they do. They a lot of times know the house I'm talking about because some of these towns are small.
Yeah.
And in some instances, I've actually talked to agents who used to own a house I was buying, believe it or not, which is really, really interesting. That's where you know it's a really small town.
Yeah.
But they know the contractors. They give the contractors a lot of work. And whenever I hire their contractors, their referrals, I've done far better. I have not been burned, knock wood, by utilizing their contacts compared to my own. I've been burned getting my own. So best piece of advice for people out there, if you're going into a different market, find a really good agent, get a small mom and pop shop place, and then use their referrals there. And also send that agent in and take pictures and tell you what the property needs in order for it to get it mortgageable to resell the property.
Okay, so this is question that I run into the same issues. When I get into a market, I typically would call, like I would pull up all the local agents and see who's listing and who's new in business, right? And I would call. Right. And a lot of time I would call maybe 10, 20, and maybe I get one to return my call. And then sometimes they just move really slow.
Yes.
Are you seeing that same thing? How do you overcome that? Like, what's your spill?
Absolutely. Yeah, so there's a little trick to the trade here. If you want to find hungry agents, the ones that have been around for a little while that are still hungry for business. So another great resource you can utilize here, it's free of charge, is the HUDhomestore.gov. If you go onto that website, you could do a search for two different things: title companies, and you can also search for agents. And these agents are people that are used to either dealing with bank REOs, or a lot of them are bank REO agents. So they're always getting listings, but they're always hungry for other buyers too. And if they can get the sale of the property and also if they get both sides of the commission and then relist it with you too, they're really highly motivated people to do that. So they've been our best source. Otherwise, you go on Google, you find people, you call, they see your numbers, your area code is not their area code. A lot of times they'll just ignore it, or they just won't get back to you anytime quick. So that's been our best source. I've also used on occasion Google too, just to find some people out there that, you know, whether it's really close or if it's in an HOA community, somebody who's listed a bunch of properties in that community that knows it really, really well. I'd rather utilize them if I can because they know the market so well. So those people usually reach out to you pretty quickly. But as you know, in this business with realtors, especially with the market up and down, they're in and out half the time. These people are doing other work and other business too. So it can be really difficult to find. You just got to be persistent, continuously call, email, and text is the best way. I get the best responses by texting agents. You just got to make sure the number you have is actually a cell phone and not their office phone, obviously.
What do you tell them? Like, this is Paul, I'm a big time investor from Florida.
Yeah, I tell them, look, here, the property I'm interested in, it's in your market here. I'm going to be buying it. I have it under contract. And would you be interested in potentially helping me to list a property to resell it, right? So you're going to get the commission to resell, and I'm going to utilize you as much as possible here. It's usually what I tell them. I don't tell them I've been doing this for forever. A lot of times they'll ask me my history, my background, then I'll tell them. But I try not to give them too much information up front.
Do you also try to get a discount, or do you just don't mind paying them a full commission?
We usually get this. It's not a full commission. We usually tell them 5%.
Yeah.
And they're happy with that 5%. And they'll a lot of times manage to rehab, or just, if it's a wholesale, you're not doing a whole lot, right? Just they'll manage the contractors for us as well. So it's super helpful that way. And they've earned their percent. If they only want to give the other agent 2%, I'm fine. And they keep the 3%, that's fine by me. And with what's going on with NAR now and it changes, even the buyer's agents are totally accepting that 2%. They're not complaining, even 1.5%. And sometimes we've seen a couple instances, our buyers now are paying the agent 0.5% at the closing table. I'm not sure if you've run into that yet, but we have had it in a couple of instances already.
Yeah, I feel like they're very straightforward about, are you going to pay me if I show your house?
Right. which I get, right? Because it's a lot of time. If you're a buyer's agent and you're showing people who are tire kickers, you're using a lot of your time and you're not getting anything out of it. I totally understand why they would want to do that.
What I've been getting is buyer would call me directly and say, I hear that I have to talk to you about paying my agent.
That's right. I know. I've gotten that too, where they've asked us to help with that. And depending on the offer, I don't mind doing that. Right.
Yeah.
If they're going to come in at ask or near ask or whatever, then we kick in a little bit towards them. I'm good with that as well. We're in a changing environment with the whole way the whole commission structure goes. So it's going to be ebb and flow with that for the next year or two until there's some kind of synchrony to it.
Yeah, yeah. All right. So when you in your market and when you decide that you're going to go into another market, how do you identify which market you want to enter?
So for us, it's not always necessarily about identifying a particular market. If we find a property that's a really good deal in that market, then we'll enter that market, right? It's not dependent upon all right, I want to buy one in Birmingham, Alabama. I don't necessarily do it that way. I kind of let the deal put me in the market I'm going to. And a lot of times it ends up being the same market we buy multiple deals in, which we'll use that realtor again over and over and over again. A lot of our agents have been used 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 times. One of them about 15 or 20 times because he's an agent in Pennsylvania that I've used since like 2004. So he's gotten a lot of business from me over the years for sure.
Yeah, yeah. Give us some story. Worst case scenario, train run off the track with these agents. Because some of these agents you may not have never met them in person.
I'll give you a great one because this is like the worst deal we ever did. And it went against my instinct. And it was a student deal. So we teach people how to do what we do as well. Mm-hmm. This was a student deal. It's me, my partner on the educational side of the company, and our student. And this is a auction.com deal on a property, and it's a condo in Osprey, Florida. And the reason it hit me as to not do this is back in 2021. And when the market was red hot in the fall 2021, before the rates went up there later in 2022. And you're purchasing the property, which of course you're going through the HOA, but there's a secondary HOA that it's a club that belongs to it, and you must buy into the club. Oh. It was a $40,000 buy-in. Ouch. And it's telling us it's worth $950, and we're picking up for, I think, around $580. So it seemed like a decent deal.
Yeah.
I personally like this buy-in here, and I also don't like that price point. I don't like that $500,000 and above. I just don't like that price point from an investment standpoint. So I was against it, but I'm like, all right, let's a majority rule here. What do you guys feel about it? They felt good about it. They ended up wanting to move forward with it. Agent that we used was giving us numbers, but I think they were off on a lot of. I just didn't have the trust. We closed on it. We couldn't sell it. We still own it. We rented it for a year. They've since raised the initiation fee to $70,000 now. Golf membership to $100,000, and they wonder why nobody wants to buy their properties anymore. It's like, guys, come on, get with the program here. You can't keep increasing when nobody's interested in your club or in your properties here. So that's going to be a big loser for us. It's one I've learned and I've always marked. Now, we don't do HOAs anymore unless it's a very small HOA with a very minimal fee. It doesn't have the big transfer fee or anything like that. We do have one going on Union, Washington. It's a minor HOA fee, so it's not that big. We don't mind with those. But the ones where it's a resale vibe like this, where somebody's got to buy in, they're just hard to move. So we're going to lose some money on that one, unfortunately.
Yeah. How far is that from you?
That's about 2 hours from me, north.
Oh, so you can't even just go over there and take advantage of the membership.
We've done it a couple times. My wife and I went up for lunches a couple of times just to use it.
Just so you feel like you're getting something back?
Yeah, not enough. It's just not convenient. It's definitely not worth it.
We got that down here here in Houston too. And I stay away from those, the social club membership, whatever. We haven't come across one that's 100,000 yet. There's a big subdivision up north, and I say 20,000-30,000 for that membership. And I think that turned away a lot of buyer. So it's harder to sell.
Especially when the economy is downturn like it is now, it's on its way downward. It's not on the way up. It's not spiking. So now it's not the time for them to be increasing their rates.
So are you renting it now, just trying to break even?
We're running it out for now. I do have a buyer who has a really low offer out there that I'm contemplating just doing it and taking it before year end here just to take advantage of the tax loss. So that's something I'm thinking about. If our tenant moves out in November, so the timing could work out perfectly with that. So that's kind of where this one stands at this point.
So sometime we win and sometime we lose.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's a gamble that I would never recommend anybody to take on those type of things. It's better off, especially if you're newer in this business, avoid any HOA anywhere in the country. It's just a lot easier if you do that. Again, there's parts of the country where townhouses at minimal cost, $40 a month, that's fine, right? But when you get into something where they have all these restrictions, and a lot of them have rental restrictions, so you can't do regular rental or short-term rental, it must be at least 12 months type of deal. So just be careful that when you're looking at properties, best just find your single family or your multifamily. It's not in an HOA.
All right. So would you say that this is one of the challenges that you encounter because it's in a new, like an area that you haven't invested before?
Absolutely. Yeah, definitely. In Florida, since we moved down here about 3.5 years ago, we're still learning all different things. And Florida is, of course, a huge HOA place. So many people that are snowbirds, they don't want to take care of the property when they're not here. But if you're in a condo or an HOA community, they take care of the mowing, maintenance of the exterior. So you don't have to worry about any of those kind of things. But you got to be very careful. I think it was in the economic downturn of 2009. I believe condos lost 60% of the value. And I took advantage of that in 2010, 11, 12. I bought a lot of these, fixed them up and resold them at the time when they were really, really cheap. That's the time you could do it. Now is definitely not the time to be getting involved in these HOAs for sure. And just be careful what you're getting into, right? I mean, get their copy of their bylaws, what their restrictions are. And, because there's pet restrictions on a lot of these as well. So sometimes you can't have too big of an animal, too big of a dog, or you can't have certain types of animals. So just be keenly aware of that.
Make sure you do your due diligence.
That's the key.
What are some other challenges that you face when you enter a new market?
So the biggest one, if you want to wholesale, is trying to find buyers in that new market, right? If you want to wholesale this property, one thing we were always able to do with that, we always were able to reach out and find wholesalers in the different markets. A lot of times we would just do JVs with them. We're bringing them a deal. We give them a percentage of the deal, right? We had a couple guys that we just did, whether it was a fixed dollar amount or a fixed percentage amount. We'd bring the deal to them. They would sell for us, and it was great. So that's one way to get around the finding buyers in the new market, because that is your biggest challenge. But for what we do now, it's not really a challenge because everything we're putting on the MLS now. And I think a lot of wholesalers have even gone that way. If they can put the property on the MLS in that market, they will do it. It's just a lot harder when you're going direct to seller to try to get people in and through the property and stuff.
So when you try to do it on MLS, then that means you're doing it through a novation?
Yeah, that if you're doing that, you're doing it through like a novation type for sure. I mean, that's your safest, best, most legal way to do it at this point.
And are these property occupied or vacant?
Usually vacant. Yeah, usually the ones we're dealing with are vacant. And I don't even want to deal with the novation thing as much anymore too, because I have worries that could become an issue. So what I end up doing at this point is I take down every property, meaning I purchase it. So I have an A to B side, I'm buying it, and then a B to C side where I'm reselling it. So that way I can't have any litigation come back on me if I did anything, under the radar or whatever. I'm actually purchasing the property and then reselling it. So it takes away some of those legal issues that could arise.
Well, let's talk about that. Because that means you're buying the property sight unseen, you personally.
Yes.
Yes. And how do you minimize your risk?
So, and this property is in Wauchalla, Florida, which is, I think, a little bit west of Lakeland and east of Tampa, a couple hours from me. And I have an agent out there that went through to take a look at the property this morning at around 11 o'clock. I'm supposed to close on this tomorrow, but if numbers don't come back making sense, then I'll just cancel the deal and I won't move through with it. But as I anticipate, it should go through. It seems like everything went through smoothly this morning. And as far as what kind of renovations were needed, he's going to give me numbers on repairs, give me a value of what it's worth after repair, and how long he thinks it'll take to sell that property in that particular market. So that's one way to mitigate your risk and offset it, buying sight unseen. I always try to get an agent through the properties. And even if they can't get inside, because sometimes these sellers, especially on the bank side, will not allow interior access. If they can get in there, like peek through the windows, kind of get an idea of what it looks like in the interior of the property, then at least have an idea. And then what I'll do is I'll assume worst case scenario that needs a new heater, HVAC, hot water heater, maybe no appliances and some other stuff. So just assume worst case scenario.
So this agent that you use must be fairly experienced because, most agents, in my opinion, they don't know how to estimate repairs or look at it. They may have an idea, but they don't really know.
100%. This one is somebody who's dealt with investors before. They actually have he has a big team. He's like 12 people on his team. So they're pretty solid, and I did a lot of research on this guy before I ended up picking him because we had looked at a couple of others, spoke to this guy. He was really quick to respond, really quick with every update on everything. And that's all I can ask for from an agent.
That's amazing. So the timeline from you talking to the seller to the timeline of this agents going out, does that happen in a day, in a couple of days, in a week?
So it was 2 weeks when we first got the property under contract. And then when we got set up everything, because the hurricane delayed everything, right? It delayed everything going on here. Both those hurricanes that went through. So we were able to get him through today. It worked for the buyer and the wholesaler on this one, and my agent to go through. So it all worked out pretty well. And now we just make sure the numbers are verified. It was Ronald Reagan said, trust but verify. So that's why I'm at this point now. Like, trust. All right, my numbers should be pretty solid. I know the wholesaler well because I've dealt with him and bought other properties from him. So his numbers are usually solid, but now I wanted verification from a third party who knows that particular market really well.
So what else do you do to minimize risk?
So the biggest thing we could do to minimize risk, especially in these properties that you can't get into the interior, assume it needs everything. So go really high on a rehab, which will push your maximum allowable offer much further down, right? Much lower. Mm-hmm. So if you assume the worst case scenario, and you factor all those numbers in, you should be safe because this truly is a numbers game in business, right? And in the real estate business, if you know what the after repair value is based on all the comps out there, and you're picking, let's use simple math, right? 200,000 is the after repair value. It needs $50,000 worth of work, and you go into to give you the formula. So you 70% at 200,000. So now you're at 140,000. Well, now it needs 50,000 to work. Now you're at 90,000. That's your maximum allowable offer. But you also got to factor in if you want to be a wholesaler and wholesale. Well, now you're down to 70,000, right? Because you want to make 20 wholesale spread. Or for me, if I'm purchasing, I got $5,000 in closing costs in the front end and $5,000 in the back end. So that's say $10,000 in closing costs coming in there. I'm going high with numbers, right? Holding costs, closing costs, all that. Yep. So that pushes my number down. So let's say I got to be into the property for $70K for it to make sense to me. And it's the worst case scenario with numbers as far as repairs. I think that's your safest, best way to do it. And then you could be surprised at the upside, and that you go into the house and you find out, this house only needs $15,000 or $20,000 worth of repairs. That's $30,000 extra for your profit.
That's a better surprise than the other way.
Absolutely. That's the surprise you want. That's why I always assume worst case scenario.
Yes. All right. So in your operation, do you actually deal with the seller directly? Like, do you guys go and do your own lead generations, or do you buy online through auction?
Mostly we're buying online right now. I don't do direct to seller. The only way this one is through a wholesaler, right? So I'm technically not even dealing with that seller at that point because I'm dealing with the wholesaler who's dealing with the seller. So for us buying online, we're on online auctions, whether it's auction.com, Hubzoo, Zome, Hudson and Marshall, or any of these other outfits. Even HUDHomestore.gov is technically an online auction. When we're buying for them, we're dealing with a third party who goes directly to the seller. So to give you a scenario and just let people know when you're buying these properties, sometimes you'll go in there, you'll be under contract, you'll send your agent out there and maybe your contract to take a look at the property, you find out it needs repairs that maybe you didn't know about before. And then you go back to the bank and say, look, we found out more repairs. I can't do it at this 80,000 number. I need to be 65 now because we found this extra $15,000 worth of repairs. A lot of times they'll actually renegotiate back down if it makes sense for them. Other times they'll say no, but we'll give you credit for like $5,000. And if it's numbers still work for you, go ahead and do that. But that is something you could do as well. It's just, I don't make it a common practice because usually the sellers, I'm buying from them multiple times, whether it's Bank of America, Wells Fargo, Nation Star. So if you become one of those ones that they know is always asking you for money off, they're going to deny it. But if you're somebody who rarely does it and occasionally does it, they usually accept your word and look at your quotes and give you a credit. So found that's been the best way to do it.
That's kind of genius, actually, because you then don't have to worry with a sales side of your operations, like keeping up with your sales guy, training them, and
the sales process is annoying. You think about it from the direct mail, which I did for a few years too. You have to have the acquisition manager, right? And then maybe a manager who manages all your leads coming in there. Then you have your disposition manager right here. You can literally be doing what we do. You could be a one-person operation, which is what I was for the longest time up until 2013 before I added people to my team. Besides VAs, I had a disposition guy and a partner on the educational side. So I could be the one who is just bidding on online auctions, getting everything under contract, then getting, whether I'm using asset-based lenders like Kiavi, Lending One, Lima One Capital, Dominion Financial, or private lenders, which we use more often on these properties, or our own funds. We're setting that up and setting up everything through the title company. So we're not dealing with a whole lot of different parties. And I'm just going to list it on the MLS. So now I'm going to leave disposition manager because the MLS is my disposition manager. So you can keep it much more simple. So a lot of for instance, a lot of our students end up being engineering mindset people. People are looking at data and they can do this right online, do it all from their desk. Very analytical people, sometimes overly analytical, which makes it difficult for them to find a deal, but they can do this part-time. So we have a lot of students who do this part-time, and some of them make, for instance, one of the nurses we have in Miami, a male nurse, he makes really good money. He makes like 120 grand a year, but he makes more flipping properties through us than he does as a nurse. So
I don't doubt that. Yeah.
But he enjoys doing the nursing side of it too, and the benefits from all that. So don't quit your day job. Keep doing what you're doing, and just do this on the side, and you're going to be sitting pretty.
Yeah. And shorten that timeline up to retirement.
Exactly.
So because you're buying from online auction, does it help your deal flow to be more consistent versus, dealing with the seller? Because, we all have cycle. Like sometimes you buy 10 a month and sometimes you buy nothing.
Yes. So that is very, very key. Because we're buying all over the country, it does keep our deal flow very, very consistent from month to month. And we got a lot of inventory to look at because we look at all 50 states if we want to. We look at 20 to 30 states at any given time. There's states that I've kind of crossed off I don't want to do business in anymore because it's very difficult, like New York, which is an attorney state. And it takes forever to get deals done. So I don't even want to bother doing that. Vermont, where they have an out-of-state tax of like 15%, a land gain tax of another 12%. So all this eats your profits up. Another one in West Virginia, we just did one recently in West Virginia. They have a 15% out-of-state tax. I'm like, all right, take that one off the list too. I don't want to buy in West Virginia anymore because these things cut my profits. So then we start looking at what markets have the most inventory and the best deals out there. And that's kind of what we focus on.
And you found out about New York, Vermont, and West Virginia after the fact.
After the fact, yeah.
Ouch, huh?
Yeah.
Expensive lesson that you pay for our benefit. So thank you.
You got it. Yeah, people can learn from all my mistakes.
What other mistake did you make so that I can avoid?
Not buying Bitcoin in 2009. How about that?
Okay, so yes. So you've been on many podcasts. Speaking of Bitcoin.
Yeah.
My goal today is to get you to tell us a secret that you haven't shared anywhere else on any other platform.
Perfect. So I'll give you one here. And you and I talked about this right before the show here, that I actually used to buy my property and my 20% down on my property here in Florida. I use Bitcoin. I found a title company in Fort Lauderdale that took cryptos as the deposit, right? I had to go through, I think it was using a company called bitpay.com, where basically I put in my Bitcoin for them. It immediately transferred to US dollar value at that point for a small fee. And then they had the US dollar, obviously. But for me, I was able to use my Bitcoin to purchase my down money on this property, which was great.
So that you have to prove paper trail or anything like that at that point, or didn't matter?
No, everything is done through the blockchain. So, I mean, that shows the value it was when I bought it, sold it, all that kind of thing. Yeah.
Okay.
You can't cheat taxes with blockchain technology. It knows what you bought, especially with one like Bitcoin. It knows what you bought it at. It knows what you sold it at, right? So when it comes due, the taxes come due, you got to pay them.
Okay, so all these rumors about hiding your asset in crypto are not necessarily true.
No, that's the government putting out a lot of false information here. They're trying to scare people away from cryptos at that point. Bitcoin is an open blockchain. It's easy for anybody to see wallet to wallet. Now, if I have a wallet that doesn't have a name connected to it, that's one way to have some anonymity, but they know it pertains to that wallet, when it's moved, when the purchase was, when the sale price was. And it's a cold storage wallet offline. There's other cryptos out there like Monero, like Zcash, that do hide who has the money, where the funds were. They have no idea, right? There are those cryptos out there that could be used for nefarious deeds. But the number one thing used for nefarious deeds in this world is the US dollar. That's what's used, number one.
Yes. So do you see that more and more people going to trying to buy real estate with Bitcoins or cryptocurrency?
It's been happening more and more over the past 3 years for sure. A lot of people turning their properties into NFTs, which stands for non-fungible tokens. So if I have my property that I own in whatever LLC, I can convert it to an NFT and then sell that property or fractions of that property as an NFT. It's pretty interesting how you could do it. There's a couple of companies out there that will fund their own real estate deals by turning it into an NFT. People will fund money. Basically, it ends up being a mortgage, but they'll have voting rights to the property too. They might own 3, 5, 10, 25% of the property. If they own 51% of the property as a rental property, they can decide on, say somebody's not paying their rent, they can decide whether to evict them or not evict them at that point. So there's some interesting things going on out there, and that's going to keep continuing over the next 5 to 10 years, I'm sure.
Oh my God, I feel so behind now.
The world is converging. The real estate and crypto world is starting to converge, and it's going to take another decade or so for it to really.
What do you see? Like, what would be the advantage of doing NFT over cash?
You don't have to use a mortgage company anymore. So think about it from a perspective of a person who's an investor. It doesn't necessarily want to get involved with Wall Street or buying stocks, these things. They want to have something that they invest in that's held long-term, like real estate. It's a great way for them to invest in real estate. And they can even get tax advantages of the real estate. Say you own 5% of that property, they get 5% of the depreciation of that property, all the write-offs and stuff as well. So they get a lot of tax benefits from it. The person who owns the majority of that NFT could then fund the real estate deal. Let's say they want to stay in control of it and end up owning the majority of it. They could sell 49% of the valuation of the property as an NFT. People fund it as a mortgage instead of going to Bank of America or Wells Fargo or these banks to get qualified. They're funding a property that way. I do think that as we go down the road here for wholesalers and stuff, people, instead of using some of these asset-based lenders, there may become more platforms out there where people put a deal out there, say they got under contract for 100, and when people do their due diligence, they know it's worth like 200 as is. People don't mind funding that deal, right? They're going to fund that deal, get 70, 10%, maybe 12% of that deal or interest on it. And, it'll turn and flip. I'm hoping I'm able to do that down the road here over the next 5 to 10 years. I would love to be involved in a project like that.
That sounds amazing. So this is something that I haven't researched on or learned about. So let's say you have 100,000 in the bank and you want to convert it to an NFT. Do you just how does that process work?
So there's a process. You got to convert it to an NFT. So take it out of your LLC. It then will convert into an NFT on whether it's through Ethereum's blockchain or Solana or another blockchain. And the ownership is actually converted to an NFT. Now you can still become like the majority tangible owner. You can set parameters of that NFT. You can make it where people own nothing and they're simply just mortgage holders for it, right? Just a lien holder on the property. Or you can make it where they have ownership rights. I think it's called Lyft.io, Lyft. That might be one of them that's out there. I might be with the wrong name there, but there's a couple companies out there that do it that way. There's a lot of them that have Airbnbs and they're funding their Airbnb deals that way. They're funding their mortgage basically, more or less with that.
Okay. Now I got some homework to do.
Yeah. Yeah, the crypto space, the whole blockchain, it's changing the world. We're still at the beginning stages of that, obviously, but it's gaining a lot of popularity with the ETFs of Bitcoin, with Ethereum, probably going to have other ones like XRP and Solana coming up soon as well.
So Paul, what does your operation look like today?
So mine's pretty simple, right? I do have an acquisition manager. He works part-time for me. I have Michael, who runs the educational company with me, right? So he's 50-50 partner with me in that. We have 2 VAs that help basically when we're looking at these auctions, which ones should we be bidding on, which ones should we not. They do the first layer of due diligence for us based on parameters we've given to them. So we have 2 VAs, 1 acquisition manager, and then Michael and myself. So we're pretty slim. We keep it nice and small.
That is amazing. What are the metrics or numbers that you track for your small team?
So ours, we don't have your regular old KPIs like a lot of people have. What we're looking for is for each deal, we want to have a minimum net profit of 20K, right? That's what our average net profit we want to make is on these deals. That's our numbers going in. So when we kind of back into those numbers when we're analyzing these properties to make sure the net profit's minimum of 20K or more. And I want a little buffer on that. So when we're going through and we're bidding and doing it, it's like usually 25 or north that I'm looking for on those. So anywhere from a 16 to a 20% ROI for the most part is kind of where those numbers fall in there. Sometimes end up being 30%, 40%, 50% or more. But on average, to probably around 16 to 20%.
Sound very profitable.
Yeah. And we don't have any costs, right? We don't have any marketing costs for acquiring these properties, which is really helpful because a lot of people are paying $3,000, $5,000, $10,000, $20,000 a month, depending on how many markets they're in, a lot of these big time wholesalers. And then lead flow, as you said, that can change from month to month. And sometimes maybe texting doesn't work or cold calling doesn't work. And you have to constantly shift. So ours, we don't have any of those things to worry about really with that. If we don't have enough properties or if we have a market that we want to do more business in, that's where we kind of look into the wholesalers in those markets to try to tap into more deals that way.
So you said something earlier about '08 and now.
Mm-hmm.
How do you feel that market, the conditions then in '08 and now, how are they different? And how are you prepared for the next coming years?
So in that '08 market, we had all those loans, those ninja loans, no income, no assets, no jobs. People had getting mortgages they had no business getting. And that led to all those bank REOs, right? All the people for getting foreclosed on. We had so much since then. We, with all the legislation that went through, it's much, much, much harder as most people to get qualified to get a mortgage. So the people that have mortgages are generally pretty qualified. We also have low interest rates. We have a lot of people like myself have 2%, 3%, 4% mortgage rates, and those are keeping their monthly payments really low. So we don't see a whole lot of huge risk, the upside on foreclosures from that perspective, like mass foreclosures, right? Your normal typical foreclosure rate is kind of what we're still at here, and we're still building and still seeing a little bit more inventory, but I don't see any kind of huge, unless something catastrophic happened, right? Some kind of a black swan event, like war here in the States. I don't think that's going to change anything. Otherwise, I see us going into more inflation now that the Fed is dropping the rates again. So we're going to have more inflation. So you're going to want to be on risk on assets like the stock market, like cryptos, like real estate, silver, gold, things that have tangible value, potentially artwork and those kind of things too, NFTs. I think we're going to go into the melt up because we have over 35 trillion in debt here in the US. There's no way for the government to pay that off. The only way to do it is to inflate their way out of it. This has happened before in different civilizations. Go back to ancient Rome. When they melted down the dinar, that's how they watered down the value there before they went down. A lot of countries deal with this, right? We're going to be dealing with that.
Yeah, and Elon thinks he can fix that problem.
Yes, he thinks
Let's hope he can.
Oh, we hope he can, right? I think we're going to run into, if you're not into these assets, whether it's the stock market, cryptos, or real estate, or have your own business, you're going to be kept poor. Unfortunately, people that are poor are going to feel even poorer, which is really sad. And the people that are in these assets are just basically going to keep up with the pace of inflation, I think. We can look at it. Bitcoin could go to $1 million and people would be ecstatic. But what does $1 million mean at that point? Say it's 2030, Bitcoin's $1 million. $1 million might mean what $100,000 is now, right?
Yeah.
So we got to look at it from that perspective. Gold could be $10,000, but again, looking at what the value of the dollar is, it doesn't mean anything, right? We're looking at today's value instead of what it could be as inflation eats away at everything, which is what we've been seeing since COVID, really. We've been seeing that.
So what are you doing to prepare?
Buying more cryptos, buying more real estate. I'm buying and I'm going to be holding more real estate. And one of the, instead of the Airbnbs, which I've done some of before, I'm getting into the co-living space. You may have heard of a company called like Pad Split. There's that.
Absolutely.
Quite a few other ones. I'm getting into the co-living space. I turned a 4-bedroom, 3-bath into an 8-bedroom, 4-bath. I bought another one here in North Fort Myers that was a 2-bedroom, 2-bath that I'm making a 6-bedroom, 3-bath. It also has an ADU that we're going to utilize. It also came with a second lot that I'm going to end up building on and doing that.
Oh, you got the perfect building for that.
Perfect. Yep. So I'll build another little pad split type of thing there. And for people who don't know what that is, you're renting the room by the week to people that work at it's usually lower income people that can't afford regular old rent. And they're working at either Taco Bell, gas station, they're assistant manager at Burger King or McDonald's, one of those things. Their salaries aren't big. And you're providing a room for, say, $175 to $250 per week. But that does include electric, includes plumbing. You don't have to worry about utilities or any of those things. You're covering that. It's just co-living. You could be sharing a bathroom, or if you have one with your own bathroom, you might be paying closer to $300 a week or $275 a week. So those are what's going to grow, especially as the poor people potentially become poorer. They might actually gain more popularity and get for the Airbnb. I already kind of seen that fading and fading. We've all seen that really fading and fading. There's always gonna be spots where it works great. Don't get me wrong. It's always gonna work great around Disney World, around areas where, on lakes, the ocean, that kind of thing. But I've already seen a lot of people losing values and people moving their Airbnbs. I don't know if you've seen the same or not.
Yes, we actually interviewed Frank Furman of Passplit when they started that company. He's from Atlanta, but they came to Houston to have the talk. And actually, I love the concept. And for you guys in Florida, I hear that it's going really well.
It's going gangbusters.
And for
right
that,
now.
and for that concept, for you to really be profitable, you got to have 6 to 8 bedroom to a house.
Yep.
Yeah, that's the key.
That is the key. You have to have enough. Otherwise, it's not going to work.
Yeah. But it's way better than Airbnb because you provide the bare minimum of anything.
Right.
You don't have to worry about awesome amenities or unique, mirror on the wall.
Right. They just want a cheap place to live, place to rest and relax, not have to worry about paying an arm and leg for it, more or less.
That's very forward thinking. I love that.
Yeah, I think we're going to continue doing more and more of those over the next few years. We're always looking for those deals at this point, the properties that make a lot of sense with it,
So tell us about your best deal ever.
Oh, my best deal ever. I think my best deal ever was in Casper, Wyoming. I bought a 12 unit, and funny story going in, I bought a fix and flip out there. I actually decided I'd never been to Wyoming. Let me fly out and see how the flip came out. So as I'm there, I'm with my agent. I'm like, show me some other deals, anything. And they're like, you interested in multifamily? I'm like, yeah. So we go look at a 12 unit, and there was also a triplex and a couple of duplexes on another parcel there we looked at. So I get the 12 unit under contract. I got the other 9 units under contract. The 12 unit was $425,000. Needed everything, right? Needed total renovation aside from the roof and some windows. I end up fixing that up, selling that one for $1.3 million. The 9 unit I passed on because I had a whole bunch of underground water leaks and lines that needed to be replaced. I didn't want to get involved with that, right? There's going to be a lot of extra cost in that. So I passed on that one. But the 12 unit going from 425 to 1.3 million, and we netted probably a few $100,000 on that one. That was a really good deal.
That's awesome. And you manage all of that from far away.
Yes, I did.
So you had this agent in Casper who managed that whole rehab for you.
Yeah, she managed everything for me, took care of it. She did a phenomenal job. And the contractors are a pain in the butt out there, so she had to deal with the brunt of it.
That's amazing. All right. When I grow up, I want to be like you. So, Paul, what advice does today Paul have for your 18-year-old Paul?
Oh, if I can go back right now, go back to 18-year-old me, I would tell me just buy as many properties as you can and sit on them and hold them. for as long as you can until you need to sell some to make some money, right? And take some from. That's what I would do. And don't forget about Bitcoin. Buy as many tens of hundreds of thousands of dollars when it was like a penny or 25 cents. That's what I would tell myself.
Okay, I need to overcome my fear of virtual, like cryptocurrency.
There's good ones at be in. Look, there's a lot of scams out there. Don't get me wrong, in this space, there's going to be a ton in the crypto space. You just got to do your due diligence with it, really do research on that. And there's a lot of ways to do it. It takes a lot of time. You have to really read up on these different projects going on out there, find out what their team is like, find out if there's even any use case for it yet, because sometimes they'll have coins out there for a theoretical use. I don't like investing in theory. I like investing in something that's going to be taking place, right? Or something that's already started. So these projects out there that I've invested in are ones that have already started and then later on put out a coin after they have something going on. Like I feel much better about that once I see their use case.
Okay, so last question for you today. How does the audience get in touch with you?
They can follow me on YouTube, The Virtual Investor on YouTube. They can reach out to us at REauctionacademy.com. They can reach out to me directly at paullizell@gmail.com. Feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions on stuff. I can point you in the right direction. I'd be happy to talk to anybody.
Hey, thanks for tuning in today. I do have a favor to ask. If you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell to stay updated with more amazing stories and insights from REBallers like Paul Lizell. Thank you so much, and we'll see you in the next video.